Okay, here's another edition of the what do I call these? Film logs. That's what I call them. And I'm just gonna give you my closing thoughts on the New York Film Festival. And I saw four total movies, and I've already talked about two of them. Talked about the other two I saw in the previous video. So if you want to hear about that, you can watch that previous video. And so I'm going to talk about the last films that I saw. The festival's over now. In fact, I think the last day was the 14th, which is that, and that was yesterday. I think Sunday was the last day. And I was my last films I saw at the New York Film Festival was on Saturday, the 13th. And I just want to go over those films. Saw two films. The first one I'm going to talk about is Araf, which I believe is the pronunciation. It's a Turkish film, somewhere in between. I think is the it's hyphenated there. I don't know if Araf means somewhere in between. When they did at the end of the film, they talked. The director was there, and she talked about it. The title alluding to purgatory, right? Like these people were uh, in between. They weren't in heaven, they weren't in hell. They were somewhere in between area. And it kind of fit because in the storyline, the characters were in this kind of middle of nowhere Turkish town, and the actual physical geography here, it's like halfway in between Istanbul and the capital, Anatolia, I think is the name of the capital of Turkey, in the center of the country. So it's like an in between place, and that kind of applied here. I haven't seen a lot of Turkish films. This is one of the few that I've seen. I've probably only seen like a handful, maybe two, three, maybe even more. You know, maybe three. It's hard for me to say. I've seen so many films in my life, and I haven't kept track of everything. The only other Turkish film I can think of off the top of my head that I've saw is Distant, and I saw that. I'm trying to remember where I saw that. I think I was able to get a copy at the Philadelphia Library, and at one time I had a copy on my computer. I don't have it anymore, but and that was a pretty good film. I first heard about that film, Distant, at the Philadelphia Film Festival. It featured there, and I didn't really have a lot of interest in Turkish cinema. This is probably in I'm trying to think, maybe '04 or something like that. But I was standing in line to see a film, and I heard people talking about it. Someone that was in line saw it, and they were talking about how great it was. So I always put it on my list, and wasn't able to see it though till years later. But this one was pretty good. And I'm not. Just the weird thing is, I'm not really sure why I chose to view this film. I think what I basically did is I read the description, and I found the trailer online, and I guess I was impressed enough by the trailer to make a point of viewing the film. So, so I'm happy that I saw it. On a 1 to 10, it was probably a solid 7. So it's worth seeing. So you ever get a chance to see it, do so. The second film probably was more of a crowd pleaser. Um, no, it's a Chilean film. The actor who stars in the film is the Mexican actor. What's his name? I keep forgetting his name, and he's in film after film after film. Gael García Bernal. I'm probably not pronouncing that right. You know, Everyone is familiar with his face. He was in E Tu Mama Te Bien. I think that was the film that really brought him to international attention. But then he was also in the Motorcycle Diaries. He was in Babel. He speaks good English, so he occasionally does American productions. He was also in Science Asleep, where he also spoke mostly English in that. I like that. I have a copy of Science Asleep. That was a film that I really, on some level, I identified with. So he's a great actor, and the place was filled. The director was there. One thing about the New York Film Festival, they get a lot of the directors and sometimes the actors of the film to show up. New York is such a major metropolis. A lot of these people are already familiar with New York. They passed through here professionally, or they lived in the city at one time, so they're very comfortable showing up. And everybody wants to be in New York at least once. So yeah, a lot of people do come by. He wasn't there, but the director of the film was there. And again, the film name is No, and um, and that's like a universal word in a lot of languages. So I believe that's also the name of the film in Spanish. Uh, and this film took place during the Pinochet dictatorship, and Pinochet, in order to gain international legitimacy, he was going to run again for the presidency, but because of all the uh, criticism his regime was receiving from abroad, they decided to have a vote. If you vote yes, then Pinochet would get another, I think, 8 years. If you vote no, then he would step down. And the opposition felt that the whole thing was a farce. That the regime probably wouldn't play fair, but they decided to go forward with it anyway. And Gael, is it Gael or Gael? Garcia Bernal, his character in the film, he was like an advertising guy, and he stepped forward to help with the No campaign, with the commercials, because one of the deals was Pinochet's regime give the opposition 15 minutes, and the regime would also give 15 minutes to state their case. So they had 15 minutes time to fill for like a 28-day period. Um, and since he was in advertising, he tried to sell the No uh, viewpoint, that Pinochet did not deserve more time to rule the country. It's a very good film, solid. I think people will enjoy it. I don't really have any criticisms of it. I don't really have anything to say much about it other than I enjoyed it. And that was the final film I saw at the New York Film Festival. Here's their program. I don't think this is now the program. It just says Lincoln Center on it, and I think this is just their normal monthly publication that they put out. But just for this month, it's mostly dealing with the film festival, and this was the 50th anniversary, 50th film festival they had apparently. And I already discussed the film festival to a slight extent previously. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed taking part in it. This is the first major film event that take place I've attended in New York. Not the first film I've attended in New York. I've attended films in New York before, but never a festival. So this was significant. The thing about New York is it's always like a festival. Um, New York in and of itself, the films, there's always there's so many different venues, and they're always showing so many different things that I don't think a festival is as special in New York context as it is in other places. In other places, other cities, you do not get a chance to see certain films except at festival time. New York has so many different venues that you do get see special films like these, even outside of festival. I think the main benefit of the festivals in New York is that the films are new. These are like a lot of the films they were presenting here are all 2012 films. These are films that were released in their home countries that year. So you get to see this is immediacy that you get to experience here. A lot of the films at the other venues, they're going to be like repertory films, films that maybe they can have been released at any time, but they're being presented at this moment as a part of some type of program that the venue is presenting. So that's the special thing. The immediacy of seeing contemporary films um, in back to back to back in a very short period. That's the special thing about and any of the major film festivals. But New York is one of the bigger ones. I think the biggest in the country is Sundance. I think New York Film Festival might be second on the list. And then, after that, it's kind of hard to say. San Francisco, I think, is up there. Seattle says it's the biggest. And I'm not sure if that's just the number of films that they present, the length of the festival, but I'm not sure. But they often will state that they're the biggest. Um, and when I lived in Seattle, I did not really attend the festival that much. For whatever reason, I didn't really like the programming. Um, so even on a major film festival, and also because of life issues, I didn't always have the ability to go because of jobs and things. It overlapped with the festivals. So I couldn't really enjoy it as much as I wanted to. I probably would have went to see a lot more films if I was able to. But even when I had the time, I didn't go that much. But in Philadelphia and New York, the programming is more to my liking, so I'm seeing a lot more films. But overall, I'm happy about it. I think I'm going to use this to have opportunities to see other films at Lincoln Center since I'm very familiar with the facility now. And I might go to, well, I probably will definitely go to see the festival next year. Um, but also, I'm thinking about also checking out other venues in New York and becoming familiar with them as well. Again, it's very easy to get around New York, and once you get that experience of visiting and things like that, it becomes even more easier. But hey, I just wanted to give you my closing thoughts on the New York Film Festival, and stay tuned for more videos.